Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. We have a quick little tech talk for you regarding your cybersecurity and securing your vaults with your personal information and how to encrypt your data. So we'll run through this real quick, and Henry has some great information for you. And if you have any questions, of course, we will be here after the video so that y'all can ask any questions that you might have.
Very cool. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you all for watching this video. We hope to continue bringing you better and better resources and education about how to secure your information, how to protect yourself. What this specific presentation is today is a follow-up of last Tech Talk, where we talked specifically about PII, or personally identifiable information, and how to protect it. And in that point, we discussed a lot of information. Before I go too far, if you have other questions, if you want additional cybersecurity resources, we have a ton available to you. The two that I would really point your attention to is a basic cybersecurity essentials guide that's got some great information. The information we're going to talk about today is highlighted in there a little bit. This is a deep dive on one point in that cybersecurity essentials resource guide, and my book that we put out in December of 2022. Very excited about it, and it's got a lot of information, a whole lot more than we'll have time to talk about today. So again, what we're talking about today is protecting your crown jewels, the most important data that you have. Last presentation that we gave, we talked a little bit about different ways that you can do that. And specifically, we talked about a couple things that once you get your crown jewels into the castle, and once you've put them into a secure location in your most important files, there's things like encryption and all kind of different tools that we can talk about. And we talked about other things in that last presentation, but specifically, we kind of went through four high-level points. List your places, like find where that data is, search those places, find the PII in all the 1,000 places where you stored stuff knowingly or unintentionally. Delete the stuff, delete the copies you don't need, and then secure those places that you're gonna keep them. Secure that castle, secure the one place where you're gonna put your crown jewels. And there's a bunch of different ways we can do that. The one method that we're going to talk about today is using the tool of encryption. And now we're not going to talk about encrypting everything. We're just going to talk about a couple tools for encrypting files that you put in a file location, or what in HIPAA world or other compliance mandated standards, they call it data at rest. So what we're not going to talk about is encrypting emails, VPNs, remote desktop, things where data is moving on the screen, or it's moving across the files, or from one server to the next. We call that data in motion. We're not going to do that today. It is for encrypting files that are maybe on a thumb drive or a server or a C drive on your computer. So it's good for what we call flat files, or files that you pull up and access and do your thing with, and you close them and nobody else is using them at the same time, like a spreadsheet, a picture, a PDF, a Word document, not like databases or QuickBooks files, those kind of things, unless you're the only one who will use them. So, and again, in a little bit more detail, now we're going to start getting into the weeds, and I apologize, I'm going to go kind of fast. This is not meant to be a deep dive and an exhaustive training on how to use everything. Just want to highlight it and show you how simple two ways that we can encrypt that data at rest, or your very important files, like your social security numbers, your tax records, all those PDFs that you downloaded from TurboTax, or pictures or copies of your driver's licenses, college applications, loan applications. I'll show you mine, and I'll show you how we're protecting them, and two really good tools that I might suggest you at least look into, and we'll fly through how to use them. So we're going to talk about one tool called Veracrypt and another one called OneDrive Personal Vaults. And here we go. All right. But wait, there's more. Before we get rolling, seek approval from your IT director or your compliance person or the manager at your company before you go firing up new tools, and before you go putting data in locations that we haven't really talked about yet at the company. If Turnkey is your compliance person or company, if we're your security manager or your IT, then just call us and we'll put these in a way that meets all your other standards and your company goals. And one other note is that the following is a way that I use these tools, and there's about 1,000 other ways that we can use those tools. So just heads up, it's not the only way to configure them. Your way and the right way to do it at your company is probably going to be a little customized, and there may be some things that we do a little differently for you. So the first tool that we're going to talk about in a way to encrypt your files on your computer is called Veracrypt. It's a free tool. You can download it and you run the installer. And if you want to find out where it's at, either Google or call or email us. We'll be glad to send you to the right location. And once you've got it installed and you turn on the program, it looks like this. And we'll start by clicking create a volume. So it's pretty simple kickoff and get going. We just click create a volume. So once that goes, we're just going to fly through the screens here, just kind of give you a quick example. You create an encrypted file container. What that file container is just a file. You can save that file. It's going to be an encrypted file anywhere. I like to save mine in OneDrive because OneDrive is going to replicate up to the cloud. My OneDrive is really secured, and I also back up my OneDrive using a corporate tool to copy the whole thing. So we're going to create that file container. It's an odd little file that is going to simulate kind of a vault, and you can't open it unless you know your password and your tricks. So the next screen, you click standard Veracrypt volume. And on the next screen, if you're doing this while watching this video, just pause the screen, do the thing, and then come back and unpause it. The next step is it's going to ask you, where do you want to save that file? And again, like I mentioned, I like to personally save it in my OneDrive, my company OneDrive. Because I would save it there, and when I close down the program, the Veracrypt program, OneDrive will replicate it off into the cloud and store it where I've really secured my OneDrive really well, and that gets backed up. So it's a very safe place to put this vault. So I would put it in like my documents, or you could put it in wherever. Again, though, when you get to the next screen, it asks, okay, well, how do you want to encrypt it? So I would pick the defaults, AES and SHA 512. And then the next screen asks you, how big do you want to make the file? Don't make it huge. Don't make it like, massive, so big that it'll never replicate offsite, that you can't back it up, or that it's bigger than you need, or bigger than the drive that you're going to save it in can handle. So for me, I don't have a whole lot that I put in there. I got a lot of data, but that all fits on tiny little files. And I picked 250 megs in this example. Next up, it asks you for a password. Make it a really good password. And I'll say this like 9 more times, don't lose that password. If you lose this password, you can't get opened. You cannot get into the vault. So don't lose the password. Make it something that you're going to remember really well, or store it in your password manager program. So next screen, it's going to ask you to do a trick called randomizing. And it does a pretty cool little trick where you move your mouse around all over the screen inside the little window, and the way you move your mouse is going to be completely different from what anybody else on earth ever did. So just jiggle it around up and down, whatever it takes. Leave all the defaults there, but jiggle it around until this little bar comes green, and it'll say it's ready. And what you just did there is you basically created a pattern that it uses as the encryption kind of model for the rule that applies to it, and nobody's ever going to be able to uncrack that unless they know your password. So after that goes all the way green, you click format, and it goes to create your little volume. It's usually pretty quick, and it's going to pop up and say your volume's been created successfully. So you click OK to that, and then you mount your volume. You select wherever you stored that file. I created mine in my documents folder, and I named it my Veracrypt vault. Very creative. So I called it that. So I go to, again, I'll back up a second, but you click mount, and then you select your file, you put in your password. almost, if you pick all the defaults from before, this is what you would fill in that little field. There's also an option called auto detect. It just takes a second longer to mount your volume. And then when you're done, it's going to look like this. And you're going to have this little thing that it's going to look like this. Now, I picked it, mounting it as the V drive, V like Victor or Veracrypt. And a couple of notes, and then I'll show you what it looks like real world on my computer. It'll look like this when it's done and mounted and you're all good to go. One last little note is go to settings and tell it to dismount. There's a lot of other settings, not too many. It's not really scary, but go to settings and make sure and allow Veracrypt to dismount or like close that volume when maybe 30 minutes of inactivity or the screensaver or your computer locks or your computer reboots or whatever. So so that you can keep it safe and like close the vault if you forget to close it. So when you fire up the program the next time when you reboot your computer, you would just go mount and find a file and connect up again. Again, the vault is not something, just like your home security vault's not something you would leave open all the time. You only open it when you're ready to go. You work with those really valuable and sensitive files. So it's not going to be open typically for most people all the time. It's pretty rare that I open mine. And then for me, while that vault is mounted, I have this V drive, and you can name any of your other letters, and you can see inside there I put all kind of stuff, and I put you know, my tax returns or home refinance deal you know, paperwork or insurance paperwork, birth certificates, all this stuff that the hackers would love to get their hands on. That's what I store in there, and that's what it looks like. And it's this V drive that I don't really have a whole separate hard drive called, you know, that's stuck in my computer. This V drive is, again, just that 250 meg file inside my documents that Veracrypt opens up as a secure vault and presents it as a drive letter. So that's it. A few quick little caveats. Don't lose the password. Set your auto dismount. Call us for help. And test and play with it a little bit. I would suggest, if you're new to this concept or technology, play with it for just a minute before you go move your entire company stuff or all your years and years worth of data to it. And oh, did I mention don't lose your password? We have a way to store that password for you if you're a customer or ahead of time with a managed services plan with us. We can, if you get us involved when we're setting up your vault, we can actually store it in an encrypted fashion for you, so that we can help you with that. But whatever it takes, don't lose the password. All right. Okay, next tool, I promised we'd look at a second one. This one's way quicker, has some massive negative things going for it, but some pretty good stuff as well. Next one is OneDrive Vault. All right, so OneDrive Personal Vault. Now, in your computer, if you use Microsoft OneDrive corporately, if you have a company Microsoft 365 account, that's where all your company stuff is at, it's going to look like the blue one here. If you have a personal account, as of like today, and Microsoft's free to change it at any time, but the personal ones right now seem to be coming up with a white icon. And that one is logged in with, like, for me, it's logged in with my personal Microsoft account. It's like a Hotmail account that I set up an eon ago. So what you would do is you'd right click on that. And that pops up the little menu here, and you'd say unlock my personal vault, or you would create a personal vault if you hadn't already made one yet. And what it's going to do from there, and this is also, by the way, kind of how you would use it real time. It pops up and says, hey, what account do you want me to send you a special token to, a code to? So I could either send it to this one or whatever accounts you've linked to your personal OneDrive account. It's going to send you that code that only works for a few minutes. And that's what the email today looks like. I know we always tell people don't click on all the emails and the weird ones, but this is generally pretty quick. Like, I got this email within about 60 seconds of clicking that. And then you take that code and you type it into the little field there, and it unlocks your vault. Now from there, your vault is unlocked. How do you get to it? Is you, again, click on the little personal OneDrive folder, and you say open folder. And that goes to a whole list of all your OneDrive personal stuff. And there'll be an icon that looks like this. It's going to look exactly like this if everything's working right. And it's going to say personal vault. You click on that, and I copied all the same data into that I have in my Veracrypt vault just for proof of concept here. And it's going to look just like this. Again, it's a special folder inside your hard drive that is replicated up to the cloud and back down, and it's secured with that locking mechanism. So it's very simple. And the default, I think, with OneDrive is that it's going to automatically close after 20 minutes. So it's going to close those vaults. By the way, when I'd gotten around to taking this picture, if you notice, my Veracrypt vault was already gone. It had closed because I have mine set for 30 minutes of inactivity. So it already closed and dismounted that V drive. So kind of closing the vault behind you is one cool thing that these two tools can do for you if you set them up right and allow them to do that. So a couple caveats. Right now, the OneDrive native vault only works with the personal accounts like we talked about. So it means it's not really manageable or securable by your company IT. So I don't like recommending it for my commercial customers to store their commercial business information in, because it's not something I can really help them with, because again, it has to go to their personal account. I can advise and help, but I can't really monitor how well that's going. And wrapping up, I know I blew through it and I went really, really fast. It's just a couple of things that we wanted to show about how to use some of those tools, because we had a lot of questions from last time of like, how do we actually do that? You can watch the video again, go slower. If you want a step-by-step walkthrough, if you're a current customer or not a customer, either way, just give us a call. Shoot us an email, or you can ask us for help a bunch of different ways. Go on our website, turnkeysol.com or tks.la. And if you want a little bit more information, then by all means, we publish a really good newsletter once a month and a ton of little tech tips. You can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and a bunch of other places. And we look forward to sharing resources like this with you and being of assistance and help and kind of making things hopefully simple for you. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have questions or ideas or things that you'd like help with down the road or other questions, by all means, please ask. We are really glad to help.